Hello, everyone. This is Stacy, and I am the director of SF Johnson Family and Community Services. And this is going to be a series of presentations for families, families of color, child development issues specific to children of color, because they need it. Children of color have needed this for a long time, and I had the pleasure and the honor and been so blessed to take a series of psychology classes, because I thought before I was going to be a psychologist first before a lawyer, but since Trump, I figured I'm going to do the reverse of that. But again, I've had the honor and pleasure of studying a lot of different topics in psychology and doing pretty well in the classes. And I just want to do my best to pass this information on to families of children of color and child development issues, ideas, and there's nothing that should be more important to you than making sure that your children have a stable, carefree mind as children. I was willing to put myself through a lot of things, but I was never able, or never going to, as far as I was concerned, put my children through unnecessary mental stuff. 10,000 baby daddies, living in a way, living in poverty, even though it was when my kids were growing up. Oh, they put so many statistics out there for black single mothers that was just ridiculous, and that I vowed to not succumb to. Like, oh yeah, most single mothers live in poverty. Well, me and my children never have lived in poverty. And I was a single mother of 3 children. Or any child born after 1992, which my youngest son, Christopher, was born, going to end up incarcerated. So this beautiful country that we live in has a lot of pre-planned shit for a child and families of color. So this is my attempt to help you, give you some tools to help you raise your children. Just the other day, I'm out on my patio enjoying my garden. Just a ton of little ghetto kids out there just cussing. Nobody was over 11. Sounded stupid. So, of course, when I was born and raised by the woman whose today is her birthday, we don't play that. We don't play that out of no kids. So I said something, and then once I said something, everybody else come out and saying something. Oh, that one stole my food, and that one da-da-da. They ghetto. So it only takes one of us, and we don't have black leadership in Washington. So you better start being a leader in your home for your children. So let's get started. Just an introduction today of the topics that will eventually be covered throughout the week. So just look, subscribe, join, like, so you can get this information. And if you don't want to help yourself, there's nothing nobody can do for you. Okay, you don't want to help yourself, but Lord forbid you don't want to do better for your children. So this is an attempt to kind of get some knowledge so you can help yourself, help people do better for our children. Okay, so just going to go over this. So an introduction to child development. Okay, and why do you want to learn? Why do you want to study? Okay, child development. Why do you want to study? Well, because you're raising children. That's why. First, and that's the most important reason. You're raising children. You are involved in young children's lives. You're a grandmother that may not have done so well the first time. If I would have known that high school students, their physiology doesn't allow them to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night so they can wake up at 6 to go to school at 7 or 8. Wonder why all the high school students falling asleep. But yeah, their bodies cannot wind down until midnight, 1 o'clock, just by nature. That's just nature. But no, we make them go to bed at 9. They on their phone till they pass out. Nowadays, they on their phone till they pass out. Mine just talk to each other till they passed out. And then they're sleepy. Child development, they knew this all along. They know this. It's been in books forever. So why don't they have high school starting a little later so a kid can learn better? Because they don't care. They rather keep your Karen employed than what's better for your kid. So that's one thing. So why do you take child development? Because you have children, you work in the field, you're a grandmother, you love kids. Okay, so another good reason why we learn is because they make public policies. They make policies that affect the school system, all type of stuff. Do they take child development into account when they do that? No. Just the thing I said before, when the kids are older, they're going to be sleepy at 8 in the morning. They should not be going to school and expected to learn. So public policy, they make policy, social policy, public policy based on that. And we already know, as parents of black children, they don't consider the life and life experience of black children. So that's why you have to learn child development. And another reason is just to understand human nature. Okay, why do children at this age, frontal lobe ain't even developed until a certain age. So yeah, that's why you can play peekaboo with a kid and it's like they don't even look. They think you've disappeared. Well, it helps you understand at every stage of the child's development what to expect at every stage. So if you're raising a child's perfect, okay? So some of the historical foundations of how they began the study of child development. So remember all of this, and people of color out here in the world, and the woman of color telling you they have parts for raising children, minority children, so they call them, but quiet it is kept, right? Over time, it's always been more brown people. So keep that in mind. Historical foundations of the study of child development. Okay, so early philosophers, their views of child development. So you can, and again, from perspective of the people in charge. So we're going to turn it around. But a child is a child in terms of the biological things that go on and over a child's growth. Okay, so this is child development. Okay, so we look over the early philosophers, and then they had some social reform movements that made things change, and then Darwin's history of evolution made things change, and then the beginnings of research-based theories. That's where it ends, and that's where it happens right now. Okay, so we'll go over some of the enduring themes. Some you've probably already heard of, like nature and nurture, right? What you naturally get and what you get as a result of being around your family and your community and your teachers, how you're nurtured throughout your life. Okay, so we go over some of those things. And then there are different methods, which unless you're going to become a child psychologist, not really important, but there are certain methods for studying, and we'll briefly go over that. Okay, so here are some of the main topics, or how we break down child development. So I'm going to break down all of this stuff, basically reading this and interpreting this word for word over time. And so the first part is the prenatal development and the newborn period. So we'll go over stuff like fetal behavior, what the baby's doing in your belly, fetal learning, and some of the hazards to prenatal development. Okay, and then the birth experience, the newborn infant. Okay, so we'll go over stuff like the state of arousal for a child, a newborn, and some maybe if you have a newborn with low birth rates or something like that. We'll go over some negative outcomes at birth. Okay, so first part, prenatal stuff. Second part, once the baby comes out. So then we start to talk about the nature versus nurture aspect. And it gives, my study material gave good application. So we'll go over that. Okay, so nature versus nurture is pretty much genetics, right? And environmental forces and how they affect the development of the child. Okay, so back in the, slavery days, they did some stupid stuff to say, oh yeah, the black child, black people, and that's that stuff. But of course it was wrong and just used as an excuse to abuse black people. But it is certain, and it's been shown to be proven, that no matter, even children with developmental issues, if they are found in time and corrected, and help is given to the opposite of that effect, the child, you can lessen the effects over a lifetime. So basically, if you're born in the ghetto with poor parents, and if we take you out of that situation or improve that situation. Now, for instance, which I've seen personally, the young lady has a baby out of wedlock, is a single parent, but then that same young lady has daddy walked away. Let's add that to it. So those are probably the most terrible situation you could have for a child. But what that mom has, which brings in more like the nurture, and this is where we talk about the nurture aspect. Yeah, you were brought in as a poor black child whose daddy walked away. That's pretty much what you were given. But the nurture aspect, that same mom has 3 loving brothers, a loving mother, so that child has a loving grandparent. Then you're able to maybe, where some other child is not able to, grandma can afford to put you in some kind of research program, that's something you like, or piano lessons or karate classes, or where, yeah, you started that way, but then other people began to come into your life and to help to make it better. You see that even between siblings. As mom got older, and I'm talking about women, because if you give me enough single fathers to talk about, I will. But I sure live the effect of being a single mother. So that's the nature and nurture aspect, that it doesn't make a difference. Just having organizations that address black people. If you can know you can call on something like that. It used to be black churches everywhere that really did good work instead of just draining you of your money or having a program for you. Or as I grew up, even the Catholic Church had programs for us to keep us out of trouble. The government had summer programs for kids to keep them out of trouble. And so the more we take that away from children of color, we can see over the past 30 years, whatever years, we've taken away the nurture part and left them with just what they've given, what mom and dad want to shovel out. And in some cases, it's because they're babies, right? They can't tell on nobody. First couple of years can be horrible for a child without that grandma, uncles, aunties. So that's that. That's the biology and behavior part. That comes after the prenatal. So once the baby's born, we start to talk about the biology and the behavior. So nature and nurture, and then how the brain develops after birth. So structures of the baby's brain and how it develops. And so kind of also, how it develops, it'll also show you what you should be looking for. And if you don't see that, or, that your baby should be doing. So we go into also the body and the physical growth and development for the baby. And then we go into theories of cognitive development. So the view of baby's nature, central development issues, how they use their senses, so why everything goes in their mouth. When a baby is that little, they learn by the mouth. So that's why I make sure everything's clean, because the baby is going to put it in their mouth. Okay, so we go through all of that. Piaget's theory, okay, information processing theories, social cultural theories, dynamic system theories. These are all ways of cognitive. So the way that their brain is developing, these are theories that they've come up to say, if this is what happens between birth and 2 years old, the sensor motor stage. But between birth and 2, everything's in the mouth. They want to touch everything. Wherever your senses, they want to see, they want to touch, they want to feel, they want to put it in their mouth. Okay, pre-operational stages, ages 2 to 7, where they kind of figuring stuff out, but then you can trick them real easy. Okay, so we go through all of that. Okay, seeing, thinking, and doing in infancy. Perception, auditory perception, taste and smell, touch. Remember, this is child development. So this is how your child is developing. So your baby, especially from 0 to 5, is a piece of carbon paper that's just taking in everything. And so if you give them nothing to take in, you're not helping all of the cognitive processes work. Okay, because once they have things to play with, they'll start to use their hands. They'll start to look and think. They'll start to be curious about other things. And so, if nothing else, a reason to study child development is everybody's got a baby, right? So easy to make a baby. But a baby's not a puppy. So you need to be thinking about how your baby is growing. And from 0 to 5, you really need to be trying to mold that. Because, they get to kinder and And nowadays, they want them to write their name. Some of them want them to read. So you have to understand how your child is learning, so you'll know if something's wrong. You don't want some school psychologist to tell you something's wrong with your child when you should have been paying attention the whole time. At least getting some sight word cards or something. And reading. By the grace of God, I made readers. I don't know how, because I've always had to read for school, for work. So I never really made reading for pleasure a thing. But reading is your child seeing you read is not to make them a reader. It's just to make reading such a natural thing, no matter what it is. That reading should be like walking, that they always see you reading something. So, of course, they're going to want to be like you. They're going to want to always read. And so they'll learn early to read. So, no matter what it is, read. Okay, so we go into development of language and symbol use. We go into conceptual development, intelligence, and academic achievement. And what I like is a part that goes into the genes, environment, and the development of intelligence. Okay, so qualities of the child, influence of the immediate environment, influence of society. Okay, so think times 10 when it comes to a child of color. If we're talking about intelligence and academic achievement, and you have your child living in a home where there's no place to study, it's always noisy, you have no team activity, but then they got to go and they have to study. And so the first step, especially once your kid gets into, any grade, make your home a place that welcomes quiet and that welcomes study. Have one place in the home that's quiet, that's full of books. And for kids, my grandkids come right in and ask for paper and crayons and markers, because that's how children of color, they learn by pictures more than reading. And so the best thing you can do for your kid is make them write you a story that they can tell you about, but then write it in picture form. Or read them a story and tell them to write it out, draw it out in picture form. That's where the American school system has failed our children, because we don't learn like the system is created for white children. Our children don't learn like they do. And so the tests are created for not our children, and our children don't excel, and nobody cares, and the social policy isn't created for our children. And so COVID kicked everybody's kid in the ass. And so even more so our children, right? Of course. So we got to figure out that intelligence and academic achievement part. Okay. Reading, writing, and mathematics. Okay. The section really goes into how you can make proficient writers, kids that love math, and getting over mathematic anxiety. Okay. Now, if you notice how the topics go up, well, they get more complex as the child gets older. So now we get into theories of social development. Okay, so they have some psychoanalytic theories, learning theories, theories of social cognition, okay, theories of development, and then we get into emotional development. And I think right now in America, with the influencers and the transgender kids, that for some reason they're putting a spotlight on them so much to where it's terrible for the families. Emotional development. The development of emotions in childhood. How to regulate emotions. Children's emotional development in the family. Remember, this is child development. So yeah, they're going to develop physically, mentally, socially, emotionally. They have relationships with their friends and their families, and they change as a child develops. And what you want to do is arm your child with the most beneficial tools you can, especially because our goal is to, as much as possible, give our children at childhood, at least through year 18 or whatever, some stable mental shit. Stability. A loving, stable home. Ain't got to be rich, but you can just be loving and stable. You can have rules. You can understand each other. And the best thing a parent needs to do is understand one day that child's going to be an adult. It can be an adult that gives to society in a wonderful way, or it can be a monster in society. Only way you're going to understand or only way you're going to be able to know what you're producing is to understand how a child develops. So, I'm going to end it here. Make sure to join, subscribe, like, and we'll see you next time. Tell me what you think. Child development. It's very, very important. We always put the kids last. Time to put them first. My God.